Hello and welcome to Paranormal United States. This is episode 45 and this is Vermont.
Vermont. I always feel funny with Vermont because the only time I've ever in my life heard of Vermont is in Friends when Ross and Emily end up in a cabin in Vermont. So it's the only thing I ever think of when I hear Vermont.
I don't know anything about Vermont.
No, you don't. It's not really in like films or lots of places in America. You sort of hear a lot of, but Vermont just isn't one of them places. That said, there's quite a few weird things going on.
Okay.
In Vermont. And for this episode, we're going to be looking at something called the Bennington Triangle.
Ooh.
We've had a couple of triangles in this series.
Alaska.
Yeah. I'm sure there's another one somewhere. Sure, we talked about another triangle somewhere along the way in the past year.
Definitely.
So this is the Bennington Triangle, which is centered around the Glastonbury Mountain in Vermont. It's said to be cursed,
nice,
according to Native American law, and it's Glastonbury spelled a little bit differently than the Glastonbury in the UK, which has its own sort of sacred sites and stuff going on. So the area has long been known for strange events, including UFO activity, Bigfoot sightings, strange lights and sounds, and perhaps most famously, the location where 5 people disappeared in the 1940s and 1950s. The disappearances started in 1945 when 74-year-old Middy Rivers disappeared whilst out hunting in the vicinity of the Long Trail Road on November 12th. Rivers and his son-in-law Joe Lauzon were walking together before reaching a fork. Rivers and Lauzon were separate, with Rivers telling Lauzon he'd only gone a short distance before he would join them at camp for lunch. 3 p.m. had come and gone. The rest of the hunting party would begin searching before getting the authorities involved. An extensive search was conducted, but the only evidence discovered was a single rifle cartridge that was found in a stream nearby. Rivers was an experienced outdoorsman who was very familiar with the local area. On December 1st, 1946, 18-year-old Paula Jean Weldon, a sophomore at Bennington College, had set out for a hike on the Long Trail. Many people saw her depart, including Ernest Whitman, a Bennington Banner employee who had given her directions. He was one of the last people to ever see her alive. An extensive search was conducted, including the posting of a $5,000 reward and help from the FBI, but no evidence of her was ever found. Weldon's disappearance was the inspiration for the 1951 novel Hanger Man by Shirley Jackson.
Cool.
A few years later, in 1949, 3 years to the day, on December 1st, 1949, James E. Tedford, veteran, went missing. Tedford, who was a resident of the Bennington Soldiers' Home, had been in St. Albans visiting relatives and was accompanied to a local bus station, which was the last location where he was seen. According to witnesses, Tedford got on the bus and was still aboard at the last stop before arriving in Bennington. Somewhere between the last stop and Bennington, he vanished.
Wow.
Apparently, his belongings were still in the luggage rack and an open bus timetable was on his vacant seat.
That's a bit weird.
Just literally vanished. He's left his stuff there, just gone. Just never seen again. Nearly a year later, on October 12, 1950, Paul Jepson, aged 8, had accompanied his mother in a truck. She left her son unattended for about an hour while she fed some pigs. When she returned, her son was nowhere in sight. Search parties were formed to look for the child. Nothing was ever found. Jepson was wearing a bright red jacket that should have made him more visible. According to one story, bloodhounds tracked the boy to a local highway where, according to local legend, fellow disappearee Paula Weldon disappeared on the same track 4 years earlier. 16 days later, on October 28th, 1950, Frieda Langer, aged 53, and her cousin, Herbert Eisner, left their family campsite near the Somerset Reservoir to go on a hike. During the journey, Langer slipped and fell into a stream. She told Eisner if he'd wait, she would go back to the campsite change clothes, and catch up to him later. But she did not return. Elsner made his way back to the campsite and discovered that Langer had never returned, and nobody had seen her since they left. Over the next 2 weeks, 5 searches were conducted, involving aircraft, helicopters, and up to 300 volunteers. No trace of Langer was found during the search. So that's 5 missing people. There's no connections between them, apart from the area. It's just like the same road comes up a few times.
Yeah.
They're all different ages, different genders.
I was going to say the ages is quite an interesting thing. Because there's a massive mix between a child and an older person. So
yeah, she's got 8, 18, 73. So it's literally there's no like 5 young women went missing. It's literally random. And there's an earlier missing person, slightly earlier, that of a man named Carol Hernick in 1943, so 2 years before the first disappearance. He went missing during a hunting trip around 10 miles northeast of the town of Glastonbury. The difference with this case, though, is that his body was discovered a few days later, interestingly, surrounded by huge, mysterious footprints.
Wow.
And he'd been squeezed to death.
What?
So yeah, squeezed. So it sounds bear-like type, big footprints, been squeezed to death. But that's the only time, like, all the other 5 was never seen again, never been found. Whereas he went missing, but they did find his body. And he was killed by something
big
in the woods. Something big, being killed by a hug.
Oh, way to go. Oh, I love you.
Yeah.
Wash you to death.
So the stretch of woodlands around Glastonbury Mountain includes the towns of Bennington, Woodford, and Shaftesbury, as well as the ghost towns of Somerset and Glastonbury. For more than 2 centuries, there have been numerous sightings of a Bigfoot-like creature in the Glastonbury mountain area, which became known as the Bennington Monster.
Oh, wow.
One of the first reported sightings occurred in the early 1800s, when a stagecoach full of passengers was forced to stop on a washed-out road. The driver first noticed very large footprints in the mud that was too large to be humans. Then, the coach was attacked by a large creature who knocked the vehicle on its side. So it must have been a big creature.
Christ. Yeah.
The frightened passengers could only see a pair of eyes before the monster roared and ran off back into the forest. Later sightings described the creature as a large, hairy, black thing standing over 6 foot tall.
Wow.
So could be some sort of bear, Bigfoot type. Honestly, it could be the same one that was hugged that other guy to death in 1943. Something going on there.
Yeah. I mean, 6 foot tall. It could be a bear standing up, to be fair. I know they can go a lot bigger than that, though, when they're on their back legs, but...
There's a bear roar.
I don't know.
I don't know that.
Does a bear shit in the woods? I don't know. But yeah, they do roar, don't they? I don't know. I think you'd notice if it was a bear, though, surely. You'd think you would know what a bear looks like.
Maybe.
I don't know.
So it's when you live in places when you sort of have to be aware of bears, whereas obviously in the UK we don't need to know bear safety and stuff like
that. No, it's not high up my priorities. Yeah, you'd think if you were those local areas, you would probably be aware of local sort of creatures, like bears, raccoons, all those kind of things. So yeah, that's weird. It's weird.
You see videos in America where literally like 3 black bears in someone's garden. Like, what the my God?
That's it. And it's not a rare thing over there, I suppose, in the sort of forest regions. Like I've been over to Australia to visit relatives, and we went to a cemetery, and there's like kangaroos everywhere. Like they're like rodents. There's that many of them. Whereas I suppose bears are the same sort of thing in that kind of environment.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, but yeah, weird.
In addition to the Bigfoot sightings and disappearances, others have reported seeing strange floating lights, other mysterious woodland creatures, and UFO activity.
Cool.
So, what is going on at the Bennington Triangle? The area is said to be cursed, and the Indians of the area had long been very wary of the area and avoided it. An Algonquin legend warned of a malevolent stone in the mountains that would open up and devour anyone unlucky enough to step on it. So that would account for disappearances.
Yeah, definitely.
If these have stood on this stone and been devoured by the mountain. Some say it is paranormal, stating that the place is a window into the unexplained, maybe some sort of portal. While some say the area is unstable due to wind patterns that are unusually chaotic and confusing, so people can easily get lost. Whatever the reason, the stories and legends live on in the Bennington Triangle, Vermont.